Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. What a very special and unusual segment today. I've been setting this up for a while. I'm with Oliver Askew and PHILLIP Berg, and we are global. Oliver's in Sweden, and Philip is in the Canary Islands. And the official title of this is GlassFrog Productions, which I'm gonna hold up. We'll do a little visual here. GlassFrog Productions, real-time VFX animation and visual content creation, AI. We're gonna talk a lot about AI. They are master, wonderful veterans of the film industry. I think Oliver's 15 years in the film industry, and Philip's 20 years. And GlassFrog Productions does amazing things, and we're going to talk about that. In the whole new world of filmmaking, and AI is such an important influence. I'm beginning to learn so much about AI every day. I'm inundated. I even experimented with ChatGPT, which kind of scared me. And because I'm a writer, and ChatGPT is doing my work, so we're looking for a balance. But I'm just so thrilled that Oliver and Philip taking time. Of course, it's late in the day there, time difference, but to sit and talk about GlassFrog, their journeys, their histories, the work they're doing, and some of the things they've worked on. You know, I mean, awesome. Some of the films you've worked on. So your resumes are impeccable, amazing, and GlassFrog is an amazing entity. So we're gonna talk about all that today, and so hang on, everybody. This is going to be a lot of fun and a lot of information. Oliver and Philip, thank you so much. And how about little bio sketches, Oliver and Philip, and then we'll kind of jump into some questions, because I have a bunch questions on your work in the future.
Good. Oliver?
Cool. Thank you for having us. My name is Oliver Askew. I started out at Weta Digital in 2007. Started in the camera management department, where we did The Day the Earth Stood Still, District 9, The Lovely Bones, and Avatar. And then I basically started my kind of nomadic visual effects journey around the world. I went over to Australia, did some work for Animalogic, Dr. D Studios, and then moved over to ILM Vancouver. Ended up going to ILM Singapore and ILM London, where I was working on a couple of Star Wars movies and Ninja Turtles and things like that. And then basically moved back to New Zealand to Weta Digital for 11 months, because my wife was on maternity leave, so I could go see my family. Came back to Sweden, and I started the layout and previs department for a studio over here. Me and Philip started working together and decided to create GlassFrog Productions about a year and 10 months ago, I think. And we just kind of saw the change in the industry, and the kind of opportunity to do really cool creative stuff by ourselves, basically, and that's what we're trying to do.
Cool.
Well, as you said, I have been in industry for 23 years now. I started out as a young, what do you call it, kid, coming out from animation school, where I studied there, and I started working in a games company as the first job, and then went on to work with animation, and then that's been going on for 23 years now, so it's been quite a lot of titles. Same with Oliver. Before the COVID, working with visual effects and animation was quite nomadic, so I was traveling around a lot, from Iceland to Austria to Thailand to France. It's been quite all over the place, and then I ended up here in Canary Islands, where I live now. And now most work in our industry has been done remote. A few titles I worked on were, for example, Star Wars as well. I worked on a new Total Recall, Despicable Me, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and the Ron Howard film with the Ferrari cars, Rush it was called. I actually enjoyed working on that one. It was quite fun, quite a challenge. I had to build a Ferrari based on some few photos and not a lot of reference material, and I had to build it like from scratch, trying to build the engine, everything on a Ferrari from 1975, because they had to crash it and simulate a crash. So I put 6 weeks of my life building a Ferrari from scratch. So I actually enjoyed that back in the days. And now as Oliver said, we started a company together because we could see where the industry is going, and we want to be like in the forefront of where the industry and the creative world is going. And we can see it's changing really, really fast. I spend quite a lot of my time doing research and just keep on track and keep following up on the technology that's going, because every morning I wake up, something new has come up, especially with AI. It's really all the time. There's something. If you don't keep up, then you're gonna falling behind. So it's kind of like a race to keep track of where it's going. So that's what we want to be in the forefront. That's also why we released our own AI tool.
So you both brought this amazing experience and history with some amazing films, and you both you created GlassFrog Productions. So we're going to start to talk about that. It's funny, a frog early in my life changed the course. By the way, a frog changed the course of my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was studying. I was in pre-med, not pre-pharmacy. I was in pre-med at Rutgers University, and we had an experiment that day with a frog, that we had to study the frog's gastrocnemius muscle, a calf, and the part of the experiment was you take a like a needle and put it through the frog's brain, and you kill it, but the rest of the body is still alive, and then you do experiments on that. And I said to myself, I ain't doing this. I can't do this to a living creature. So when the professor turned his head to write something on a blackboard, because we used to have blackboards in those days, I'm old, I snuck out of the class and I went down to the lunchroom and I got somebody, a pledge to my fraternity to come do that experiment for me, because I wouldn't do it. And then I realized I can't become a doctor, because I'm going to have to use needles every day. I don't want to do that. So I became a pharmacist instead. True story. Frog. Anyway, so first question I have is, what is VFX industry? I mean, what is it?
Visual effects, it's basically, or CG is computer generated art graphics. A lot of things these days they try and do on the computer rather than film in live action for injury looks, things like that. These days it's almost cheaper to do visual effects than do high live action explosions and things like that. And I guess it's kind of good and bad, because I believe traditional directors would shoot in camera what they wanted. Now in post they can change and do what they like, so they do. I don't think it necessarily makes a movie better, and it definitely doesn't help with the storyline, but that's my opinion. Visual effects is, yeah, computer generated effects on a computer.
The irony about our industry is, like, if we've done our job well, you don't notice our work. You want to see a film, if you don't notice any of the visual effects that are there, then you know we did a good job.
The history of GlassFrog Productions, you know, all the stuff you do, how it came together. I mean, everything you do, the video production, the animation, the graph, I mean, all of it. What is your history?
We started working together over 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago now. We clicked straight away. We really liked working with each other. And I think traditionally a visual effects company, it needed a huge render farm, it needed a massive facility, it needed power, it needed, all of these huge initial costs, basically. And then they'd also do their own proprietary software or pipeline or tools of how that internally work, and they'd invest a lot of money to do that. So to just go off and kind of create your own visual effects studio was quite hard or unable to do. And once I started working with Philip, I realized the power of real-time technology and how good it's getting, and that essentially we didn't need all this traditional infrastructure and visual effects things to kind of do really cool stuff ourselves. So that's where the idea came about to create GlassFrog, basically, is why not try and do it ourselves?
Next, and this is almost an endless topic, but can you talk about, I mean, we hinted at it. Talk about the new world of AI and how it's going to impact film, life, creativity. You just said it. It changes every day. It's so dramatic.
It's gonna have huge changes in our life. It's already have created a lot of changes in our life. A lot of people are panicking at the moment, and there's a lot of worry about where it's going, because people are afraid they're gonna lose their jobs and they're gonna be poor. But it's the way I see it. I can understand their worry, but it's it's a change in the way we work and how we approach work and life. Makes our life a lot easier, where we can focus our energies on more the creative things and things that matter, and the more tedious tasks can be completely replaced with the AI. That's the way I see it, and it's a way to supercharge you as a human or a creative person. But AI is just there to help you. It's not there to replace you. I understand people are worried that it's going to replace you completely, but we launched our own AI tool, AI Screenwriter, and the purpose of that tool is to help writers, not to replace them. Because when I work with the tool myself, what it generates by itself is not something I can use for the end result of anything. It's just a way to quickly get started with something. You have a blank page, you have an idea, you know where you want to go. You type it into the AI, and really quickly you have something to work with. But it's not going to be something that's going to be a finished result at all. It's just not going to make sense then result. So you've got to plot in your own thing and drive it. What I like to say is, that's why I usually say when we talk about, for example, AI Screenwriter, is for me it's a bit the same like with the camera. If you give like a really expensive camera to an amateur, he doesn't know what he's going to do with the camera. He's still going to make amateurish photos. But if you give like a shitty camera to a really good photographer, he still managed to actually take some really good photos, because he knows his craft and he has a good taste he developed over the years. And that's the way I see it with writing as well. If you have a bad writer writing using the tool, he's not going to create like the new Oscar-winning film screenplay with it. He still needs like the good taste and know how to structure a screenplay, how to write good dialogue, because an AI machine is not going to write great dialogue. So that's the way I see it. Like, you just need, if you're a good artist and you're creative, and yes, you're going to create something really amazing with AI tools. If you're not, you're just going to create accordingly, if that makes sense.
So in some way, it's going to free artists by taking away some of the menial things and some of the time-consuming things. AI will free artists and filmmakers to be more creative.
Exactly, that's the way we see it. And especially also with the VFX, especially with the effects as well, because the tools are getting really, really good now. So a lot of the tedious tasks are going to be replaced with AI. I know that a lot of jobs probably is going to be replaced, but it's also going to create new jobs.
Right.
That's the way I see it. It's like
Balance.
there's a balance. Like when you had the telegram, and then suddenly the telephone arrived. I know a lot of telegram people lost their jobs, but they just had to learn how to utilize and learn something new. That's what I mean. I think it's the same with the AI. Some jobs are going to be replaced with something new.
Okay. Okay. Next, before we went on air, we talked a little bit about the movie Casablanca and how it changed my life, how film has changed my life. And one of the things over the years, I've watched it now over 100 times. When it's funny, when I flew to Barcelona a couple of years ago, I sat in first class because I needed to stretch my legs, and I did the movies, and they were showing Casablanca on the airplane, so I watched it twice, flying to Barcelona, and coming home, I watched it 2 more times. I just sit and watch Casablanca. But the point is, over the years, I began to appreciate and understand and learn more about lighting in that movie and how. So my question is, how really important, above and beyond what just going to the movies, is lighting?
I think lighting is really important for me as an
Everything.
artist, director, filmmaker. Lighting is super important because the lighting, because you have a 2D image that you're portraying out to the audience. And this is your canvas. So you're telling a story. Every image is telling a story. And that's what I love, for example, about Citizen Kane. This is one of my favorites because he really, really utilized lighting and using the image to tell the story. What I believe as a storyteller is if you can tell what's going on just by looking at the image without the dialogue, then you've done right. If you can look at the image with the lighting and the shadows, and it tells you this is what's going on, this is the power dynamic, this is the relation between these two people, without hearing what they're saying, then you know that you've done your job right.
Okay.
Or else it will just be a stage play, basically, in some
Right.
ways.
Okay. So lighting is
Very important.
very, very important. And again, when I watch, every month I'll watch Casablanca, I appreciate so much more, and I'll look real closely at and I've watched a couple documentaries on the making of Casablanca, and I'll look at the shadows on Ingrid Bergman's face. You can just see, and you don't really realize it, but I mean, it's such artistry to have that perfect shadow cast on her face, which in fact reflects emotion. And then looking on the other side of the room, Humphrey Bogart is standing there, and there's a window and a certain way the light comes in, but that's all lighting, and what artistry. It boggles my mind, and it's funny, you never really pay attention to it. It's there, and you don't pay attention to it, but my goodness, it's so much goes in to lighting.
As to what Philip said earlier, if we do our job right, you'll never subconsciously notice it, but it adds and makes everything and makes the experience without you realizing it,
And that's the thing that's ironic because you have a cut, right? So you have one shot and the light is one way and then cut to another shot and the light is really different, but the way you executed it, this is maybe blend seamlessly, or think about it, that it's completely different, but each shot the light is positioned in a way to tell the story. And that's the beauty of filmmaking.
Interesting. By the way, I love this. I can't shove enough information into my head about what you do, because it is, for me, just the whole nature of film and the storytelling has been inspirational. It's changed my life. It's sent me on different directions. The power of film to teach and to learn, to give you emotion. I'm such a living example of how film can affect a life by watching Casablanca and writing a novel. So that's why I'm so intrigued and thrilled about what you do. There's something else I know nothing about, and now I got you guys here to ask, but post-production. talk about that. I mean, there's a lot that goes into post-production.
There is so much, and I don't think people quite realize the level of detail and the work that'll go into one frame of a really high budget movie or even a low budget movie, like how much passion and thought goes into that. Like, I know for Avatar on a large scale, Jake, the lead actor, he just had like a safari shirt, and we had 30 different shirts. And so one part of the movie, he'd fall down a bank, so they'd rip that shirt there. And then every shirt after that had to have that rip, plus whatever extra dirt or cuts or things it had. And, this is a bunch of people sitting down, cutting, tearing, doing all this stuff to one shirt in a movie. So imagine how much effort and work is behind the props and the everything else in the movie. This is just one shirt.
Yeah, every single prop or thing you see in the movie has been thought of.
And they've had meetings about it, they've designed it, they've changed the designs, like there is just so much that goes into it that people just like can't kind of comprehend the man hours or effort that goes into that sheer kind of production to get that finished film.
Now I'm sitting here listening to you, and I was talking about my love of the film, but I've been watching lately an old Western from 1958. It was Howard Hawks, a pretty impressive director. It was with John Wayne and Dean Martin, an old-fashioned Western, maybe one of the better Westerns that was ever made. And I confess I must have watched it in the last 2 months 20 times, because each time I watch it, I take something away. The lighting, we were talking about lighting. There was and it's not a visually beautiful movie. It's a Western, and they constructed the set, and it was a simple set of a little Western town, but not beautiful at all. But there's such beauty in the filmmaking. There was a scene, we're talking about lighting, it was a sunrise. It was just a sunrise, but most of the scene you're seeing, cactus, and it's all Western, but it was like a painting coming alive, because it was a painting about hard Western living, nothing romantic about it. It was hard Western living, and it allowed you to jump into that time frame. So the filmmaking was absolutely marvelous.
The thing I'm really impressed about in these days is when they're shooting on film. There's some still shooting film. I think Quentin Tarantino still insists on shooting on film. Is you don't see what you shoot in the moment. You just have to know, okay, looking into the camera, this is the lamp, this is the light, and this is the exposure, this is the aperture, and we just know that we're gonna get in the other end when we get the film and we get to see it in the first viewing, that it's gonna look good. That's why I think that's really impressive, that you have to know your craft so well that, okay, this is what we're shooting, we can't see what we're gonna get. We're just gonna know that it's gonna look like that, but when we finally get to see it. I think that's super impressive, because nowadays everything is digital. You can see immediately what you're shooting, and you can change and move things around. And back then, all the big films like Spartacus or Ten Commandments, all these huge movies, they just have to go by, okay, the cinematographer just needed to know what the hell he was doing. Because because they cannot reshoot it, because you have to reshoot it, because millions of dollars just to go get all the actors, all the set pieces and everything in there and try to shoot it again. You just need to get it. That's really impressive.
Off topic. So I'm sitting here thinking, and it's funny, I usually ask this question as part of my routine. I didn't even think to ask you guys, but I really should. I love to ask the question, what are some of your favorite movies? slash directors.
Philip, or me?
It's a wide open question.
I'm a huge fan of like Waterworld, Fifth Element. I grew up watching Star Wars, like that changed my life and why I do this job and things like that, you know. But I really liked like Reservoir Dogs and it's a really mixed bag for me, to be honest. I these days I genuinely just enjoy a good movie with a good solid storyline and character development. I don't care too much about the imagery or the looks. I
I'm a little bit
just
different.
prefer, yeah.
I like the whole thing together, like the good story and also the imagery. One of my favorites is Sergio Leone. His films, like for me, is just a perfect filmmaking. His compositions, his stagings, the music, and how everything works together. His thematics, his choices. It's like yeah, it's really good filmmaking. And I like David Fincher as well. He's a really good filmmaker. He's very particular and he knows what he's doing, and he just does a really good craftsman.
He just did he just do some kind of World War II movie? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. Anyway, next question is about VFX. Where is it headed? A couple of questions, because again, I know so little about it, and I'm sure most people don't. Where is it headed, and how would somebody get into the world? Where would they learn VFX? On the job, getting experience in college, combination?
Yep. You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you go.
Well, I would, from my own approach, I would definitely recommend you learn much more by doing than you can learn in your school. In school, there's a lot of theory. Of course, you also have practical learning, but it's just a lot of theoretics that you will still have to go out and learn by doing. So I value learning by doing much more. I think that will give you what you need to learn. Also, how to work with other people, how to, from scratch, getting something done. Basically, the value of standing on a set and learning what you need to do to get something done. Also working digitally, it's a much bigger value. That will give you a really good experience. For example, for live action, like from my personal experience, you have so many unknown factors that comes in that will give you a lesson how to problem solve. That I think is really good for you. That will give you a lot of points that you won't have the same in your school. Like, okay, I have a good example. Like, I shot a short film here in Spain a few years ago, and we had to shoot our last scenes. And we have to get this done because the camera gear we rented is really expensive, so we only had it for a limited amount of time, and the cameraman needed to fly back to London. That's where we same night with the camera gear because we rented it in London and flew it all the way to Spain. And we had to get the last shots done in this short film. And the location we found was great, and we were going there to shoot the last scene around sunset because we needed this to be a sunset shooting. When we arrived, we realized the night before that a whole bunch of construction workers has been there overnight and completely filled the set with construction gear, and suddenly our set was completely useless. So we were there in the middle of a very short amount of time. We had to figure out, okay, what the hell are we going to do? Because suddenly we don't have a location anymore. We need to find a new location that fits the story narrative before the sun is rising. And we were in the afternoon. We had like a couple hours before we had to get things done. So we really, really quickly had to go look at nearby locations, finding something that matched, and then there's everybody running. You know, me and the cameraman running the camera gear, running to the location. The actors need to get their makeup done, and just running to the location, get things set up, and get it shot, and get it in there. So yeah, we managed to get it done. But I think it was just an example of how you learn how to think fast and get things done. That you don't learn the same in school.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think getting on-set experience is the most beneficial thing. You need to have some sort of artistic background or eye or something that you could potentially learn. But getting that experience on set with the studio wherever you can is what will help you learn how this industry works, how to work in a team, as Philip says, and asking the right questions and problem solving. It's a big part of our job is problem solving. So where I think the industry's going, that's a really interesting question right now because AI, visual content creation, is kind of exploding. I think that there's always going to be an art or love for live action in camera films and content. So I don't think that's just going to go away. It's a really interesting time in the industry, to be honest. We'll see in 6 months.
Yeah, wow.
You know,
Every day you wake up and there's almost something new. It's kind of
yeah,
scary. Yeah, I'm an old timer, so I'm not supposed to really adapt and be fond of all these new innovations. It goes with my age. But you know, I've been plunging into AI and experimenting, looking, and doing some chat GPT, which I told you. It does scare me, but there was a little bit of a positive thing that popped up the other day. There was a nasty bacteria that's in the hospital. I think it's called actinobacter, and it's drug resistant and it's a killer. And they have nothing. They can't. They've never been able to stop it. Well, listen, COVID. You know, COVID came along, and within a year they had a vaccine. You know, I grew up. We had polio, and it took them 30 years to make a vaccine. And so it took them a year to make a vaccine, and part of that mixture was AI. And so this nasty bacteria, they threw AI into the mixture, and AI did whatever it does, and it spit out a new drug to combat that nasty bacteria, which they're now testing. So that's good. I mean, it's really good. You know, it's funny. I heard one of you say Total Recall, and you worked on that, and I love that movie, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm always fascinated by it. But I went to a lecture. I went to this singularity lecture. You might find this interesting, and they had all these scientists from all over the world talking about innovation. This was, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, talking about innovation. And I don't even think they used the term AI, but it was implied. But they had a Russian scientist there who said in 30 or 40 years, you'll be able to take this essence, my head, and do like a USB, plug some wire here, plug it into there, plug it. So from my head into a cyborg, like I'm looking at the Terminator now, not Total Recall, but I'm looking in part. But so a USB thing from my head to this Arnold Schwarzenegger type Terminator, and transfer everything here to that, and that is a machine, and that can live forever, and my essence goes into that, so I'm basically living forever.
correct.
That's something that's
Mortality. Yep. But I mean, Neuralink, all the stuff they're doing, it's now approved for humans. Singularity could be the next stage of our evolution. We don't know. With AI and visual effects specifically, it's evolving and moving so fast. People seem to be quite upset about it because it's imagery and it's art, and only humans can do that. But I think like if you record this video and it's us talking, and then you put that through some AI tool and it spits out an animated video of this, I don't think people would be interested in looking at it. They'd rather look at this video, see our emotions, see our actual face, and it has a bit of a soul, you know. So even if AI can create all this crazy content and it just explodes the market, I don't think it'll be very interesting or people won't want to watch it.
right.
they'll be going for live action stuff, good storylines, something that entertains them and kind of connects with them on an emotional level.
I have a burning question to ask. We briefly touched on it before we went on air. But it's a burning question. Maybe you guys can help me. I have no clue what the metaverse is. I don't know what it is. I mean,
It's a great marketing
Well, I think nobody really knows
tactic by
what it is.
Facebook.
Nobody really knows what it is. We spent some time researching and figuring out how much we want to delve into the metaverse as a company, but it's seems like nobody really knows what it is yet and figure out what to do. And the technology is not there yet to create what they want to create. They want to create this fully digital alternative reality that can run on the internet, kind of like an online game, but there's not really the technology for it yet. But there's an idea of what it potentially could be, but it's not fully there yet. So maybe we talk about 10 years from now, there maybe be something.
Okay.
But then it also goes into the idea what philosophically we talk about how good that is for the human race that everybody's plugged in to an alternate reality instead of being here present in the real life moment. And I think that's where we are at the moment, where we're kind of trying to figure out this kind of balance.
Okay, that works. That's a
but it's an idea. It's not really anything right now. Big marketing thing. In the future, as Philip says, it could be like Ready Player One. We do all our school and live most of our lives in there. But right now, it's not much, I believe.
There was a thing on the news, not metaverse, but they're now able to use AI to read your mind.
Thoughts.
So there are tools that, you know, if you watch, it has something to do with watching The Wizard of Oz. And you watch The Wizard of Oz and there's stuff floating around your mind and they hook you up and there's it wasn't 100%, it wasn't even close, it was 50% accurate. And but they asked, it was on you know, NBC News, they asked if you're walking down the street and you're holding up, you pass somebody and you hold something like this up to the mind, to the head of somebody, will this be able to pick up, will it be able to pick up what that person is reading? But the scientist said no, that'll never happen. But I thought, my immediately thought, if they do invent something like this AI and holding it up, the government would never tell you they have it, so that there'll be government agents walking down the street. But what a great movie that would be.
Well, I was in Saudi Arabia a few months ago to a summit there, and I saw some technology that was doing exactly that. It was reading your face, and it was trying to retell you what your emotion was, what you were feeling, by just looking at your face.
Wow.
So it's kind of
right,
already there.
right now they're training a lot of AI to do visual representation. So I saw it was a interview with Will Smith because there's so much footage of Will Smith that fed all the Will Smith movies into it or whatever. And then by his facial expressions, it could tell you whether it was sad, angry, happy, whether he's lying, things like that. And if they can already do that from a video, imagine what a billion times smarter thing can do.
Scary.
I saw while I was in this summit, I saw a presentation as well. You probably maybe heard about this. They have this cap you can put on your head. These what do you call it?
Neuro waves.
Waves that they can detect like brain waves. So they use it in medical industry at the moment to help people with seizures and so on, because they can see like, okay, if something starts firing up, they fire electricity back in to regulate your brain so it's not going having a seizure, whatever, which is great. The only concern is I have, or what we need to regulate is if what if it goes the other way around, that it controls your brain waves. Where so it's like if you start getting angry about something, it just immediately shoots the anger down because it knows where it comes from. That's where we, we enter into a field that's becoming a bit, what do you call it, scary.
Yeah,
So it's, if
yeah.
someone in the wrong hands wants to regulate its citizens, they can just fire off. Make sure nobody gets angry. We have a bunch of zombies walking around with a tranquilo emotion, and if they start getting upset because they're treated wrongly, we just fire off some electricity to the brain so they calm down again.
Oof.
You know what I mean? So it's a
Yeah,
technology
scary,
it's there, but it's kind of have to be like really hardly regulated.
scary. I didn't want to go down this path. I have a hard time sleeping at night, and then I'm gonna start pondering the stuff we're talking about. I don't want nobody.
I mean, you have to be hopeful. Like, you have to hope that there's going to be some correct regulations before, you know, they unleash this super powerful thing on the internet and everyone, and they can already learn the language and coding and how to manipulate humans quite easily. You know, you have to be hopeful that it's just the next stage, or it's a really powerful tool that could help our whole society be better and save a bunch of lives with diseases and medicine and things that could potentially create
It's funny.
and beautiful art.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. I asked a scientist studying brain cancer. I asked him on air. Sometimes I think very cynically, and I asked him on air, "Do we really want to cure cancer?" You know, we got 8 billion people here, and we want people living another 20, 30 years. And the funny thing is, he didn't answer.
There's a lot of money in cures, though, right? There's not. Well, there's a lot of money in treatments. There's no money
Yeah,
in cures.
yeah. So, and I didn't actually really mean to ask that question, because it's a crazy question, but
Do you mean because of the population
yeah,
growth?
exactly.
Well, I think that's an interesting topic because in the most Western countries, we're not having enough babies. The society has changed a lot. The
Right.
nuclear family has changed a lot. So most people don't have enough babies. So I heard that it's going to be an issue in China coming soon because
Yeah.
didn't make enough babies. So there's not enough workforce to take over.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know. By the way, I don't know. And let's leave it at
What
that.
was his answer? He wouldn't answer.
I don't know. That's a great answer. I don't know. And let's leave it at that. The last thing I want to ask you guys um is about GlassFrog Productions, things you're working on now, and the benefits. Because I started to read last night. I mean, I've been reading for the last couple of weeks, but there were things, there were terms that I didn't even know. I'm looking at my notes. Uh, there's so many different things you do, your services. So, what are the benefits of GlassFrog, and what are some of the things you're working on to do a wrap?
Gonna go. Me.
Well, yeah. Well, we have three departments in GlassFrog. We split up in three. We have our servers, VFX animation part of the studio where we take in jobs and solve VFX solutions and do animation jobs and advertisements and music videos and all that kind of stuff. And then we have like our AI tool, the Screenwriters tool that we launched recently. And then we have our own IPs that we are building, and we are going like hard on that. And we have some really exciting IPs that we're building that we're slowly starting to launch out into the world. We're getting quite good interest already, so we're quite excited about it.
So we've got a lot going on. I just sent you some links to our own IPs, so it's our own projects or movies that we're basically talking about and creating. We're getting quite a lot of buzz around that. We just want to do cool creative stuff with cool creative like-minded people. We don't want to turn into this huge sweatshop studio and go into the old kind of ways because we feel it's broken. And we want to be at the forefront of this, and we want to do cool creative stuff. That's about it.
Right.
The right way.
That's what I love about like the old films, that you can tell like when the film industry was young, there was like people like super creative. They had, there's no rules yet. They had to invent the rules. They have to test things out and experiment and just be creative and tell good stories. And that's what we want to be about. You know, we don't want to have much politics or crazy things. We just want to focus on, let's tell good stories, creative stories with great creative people. We just want to create good things that people will like watching. And that's basically what we're doing with our own IPs.
You know, it's funny to prepare for, because I know I was going to be interviewing you. I was kind of floating around the internet, and then I saw I don't know whether it was Netflix or HBO, but I saw a 4 or 5 part series on Warner Brothers, because it's Warner Brothers is 100 years old. So I watched 4 hours already of the history of Warner Brothers, you know, the innovation and their commitment to
Passion.
yeah, their passion, their commitment to directors, to actors supporting. I mean, they supported Clint Eastwood and everything he needed. They supported because they loved creativity and they loved to be at the forefront of change, and that's why they've endured for 100 years. And Kubrick was part of that team, and they gave him all the creative license. So I watched that to prepare to interview you in the early stages of GlassFrog, and just meeting you. You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago, Oliver, and meeting you now, it just kind of solidified, you know, my thought process about Warner Brothers and about what you're doing, and you're at the forefront of change and creativity.
I think that's a really interesting topic. Well, because the way I see it, I could be wrong, but the way I see it is, it seems like we have this circle with creativity and films where someone bust their balls and break through because they have this really creative, great project they want to go through, but nobody wants to invest in it because they think about money that doesn't fit in through whatever model they have. And then they pull through and they get it out there and it becomes a massive success and everybody loves it because it has this pure creative drive and great project and great story. But then suddenly all the money men comes in and think, okay, that's a success, let's copy it. And then they copy it and then they keep making copies of that thing. And someone new comes in and says, hey, let's create this. And they're like, no, because we want to do this now. And then they fight all they can to get it through. And then it comes out and then it becomes a hit. And then everybody says, okay, now we need to make this now. And then everybody makes this. You know what I mean? And it seems like it's the kind of loop we're running where if you want to make something new, you have to fight a little bit extra for it.
Right.
And I think a lot of the older movies, they had like a lot of friends or collaborators, and they kind of were all very passionate and they had a kind of same goal and they all worked together and they heard each other's voices. Now it's you have one director and he won't listen to anyone. If anyone says no to him, he has a word, they get fired. He has a bunch of yes people, so it's no creative collaboration. It's just one guy thinking he knows best, and you know,
Yeah. And the key to their growth was collaboration,
I
sharing,
think so.
experimentation, valuing the individual, and also valuing the team. And you know, the heads of studios were so progressive, and that's why they endured for 100 years.
Yes.
So with that, I'm it's a great way to kind of end this segment. And you know, with that, I want to watch GlassFrog Productions enter this new world and do the stuff you're doing. We have a connection now, and I'm officially inviting you to come back to pound whatever, in whatever shape, way, or form. I hope to continue growing this and have a bigger reach. And I'm sitting here as I'm listening to you, thinking of all the people I'm going to contact for them to see this specifically, because I think you guys are doing some amazing things at the forefront. And the key. So I can't thank you enough for being here. for giving up your time. You, in the words of actually Clint Eastwood, I'm going to quote Clint Eastwood. By the way, I'm amazed that he's 90 years old. He's still directing. What a great.
Yep.
But he did those Dirty Harry movies, and every one of them, he would always somehow say, "You made my day. Go ahead, make my day." So you guys just made my day.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure.
Yep. So come back. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna stop the recording. Don't leave. We're just gonna do. I love doing that 2-minute wrap. We'll do a 2-minute wrap. But thank you so much, and I wish you such good things. And I'm gonna watch.
And you too. And then you have to reward yourself for getting out 2 books. That's not an easy achievement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Oh, it's not.
Everything you've done and you're doing is appreciated too, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So to be continued. Thanks, guys. Stay. I'm gonna stop.